The biofuel ethanol. Ethanol and alcohol is one of the most common biofuels that is used and produced in the United States. Ethanol is a renewable energy source because it is produced from biomass or organic matter. Ethanol is usually combined with gasoline, a denaturant, making it unfit for human consumption and thus usable to power motor vehicles. Ethanol is offered in three different blends: E10, E15, and E85. Ethanol is mostly made from corn, particularly in the US. However, it can be produced from any source of starch or sugar. For instance, Brazil, the world's second largest producer of ethanol behind the US, uses sugarcane to produce ethanol. Though still under development, cellulosic feedstock, such as waste from starch-based crops, grass, and wood, can also be used to produce ethanol. 40% of corn produced by the US is consumed by ethanol production. There are two types of production depending on the original source: starch and sugar-based production and cellulosic production. The United States utilizes starch-based production involving dry or wet milling. The cellulosic production converts cellulose to sugar through hydrolysis. Dry milling is less expensive and is the more common process for ethanol production because there are less steps involved. Wet milling is more extensive but is considered more efficient and yields more products and a finer output of ethanol. In dry milling, the corn is first ground before being mixed with water to form a mash. Enzymes are then added to the mash to convert starch into sugar. The mash is cooked, cooled, and sent to fermenters where yeast is added and the sugar is converted to alcohol. After fermentation, the ethanol is distilled and denatured, and the part of the kernel not fermented is concentrated into distiller's grains, a co-product. In wet milling, the grain is first soaked to assist in separating the different parts of the kernel. The isolated starch is sent to fermenters where yeast is added and the sugar is converted to alcohol. After fermentation, the ethanol is distilled and denatured. Ethanol use is widespread, and more than 98% of gasoline in the US contains some ethanol. The most common blend of ethanol is E10, and E15 is increasing its market presence. However, E85 can only be used in flexible fuel vehicles. The public should be fairly knowledgeable about ethanol, as it is the most common biofuel in use and can be found at most gas stations, with labels declaring the type of blend offered. When burned, ethanol releases slightly less CO2 than gasoline and also emits less harmful air pollutant. Furthermore, the release of carbon dioxide is offset by the uptake from crops grown to produce ethanol. In other words, CO2 is recycled. Ethanol is designed to be a more effective alternative fuel source due to its low carbon footprint in regards to building, extraction, and transportation. The only drawback attributed to ethanol is deforestation that results from generating more land to grow biomass crops. According to Argonne National Laboratory, U.S. corn ethanol has 44% to 52% lower greenhouse gas emissions compared to gasoline. Additionally, greenhouse gas emissions are expected to reduce significantly more thanks to existing technologies and agricultural practices. Adding ethanol to gasoline reduces tailpipe emissions of pollutants harmful to humans. Ethanol production facilities can be found in 23 states with a total production capacity of about 17.5 billion gallons per year. The Midwest accounts for 93% of ethanol fuel production in the U.S., where production capacity totaled about 16.3 billion gallons per year. Ethanol production yields job opportunities in rural areas. According to the Renewable Fuels Association, in 2020, ethanol production was responsible for more than 62,000 direct jobs across the country, $35 billion to the gross domestic product, and $19 billion in household income. In 2021, the ethanol industry consumed 5.1 billion bushels of corn, valued at $30.8 billion. Thus, the ethanol industry continues to be a major source of income for farmers and agricultural output. Ethanol seems to be an efficient and practical renewable energy source. I believe further efforts should be made in developing alternative biological sources of ethanol, such as cellulosic biomass, which would be even more environmentally friendly than corn ethanol. The feedstocks of cellulosic ethanol are either waste co-products of another industry or are purposefully grown energy crops, which require less water, fertilizer, and fossil fuel needed to produce ethanol compared to corn. Furthermore, cellulosic ethanol seems to have a smaller carbon footprint than corn ethanol and could reduce the capacity of deforestation caused by ethanol production. Research must be done to provide effective and affordable solutions to the development of cellulosic feedstock. The end. And these are my sources.